What's going on, guys? Nick Lessigore here, Exit 12, Homebrew in the house. I'm in the brewery this morning. I am brewing today, and I'm extremely excited to do so. It's been a few weeks, need my brewing therapy. Just started my new job, getting back into the swing of things with a full-time job. Eyes are tired from looking at a computer screen all day, but love the new job, as an update for those of you wondering. But I definitely need this brewing therapy. I'm brewing a mainstay, and it was a request from a friend of my wife and I's. Our kids are best friends, and so she asked. I had given her my blueberry hefe when I brewed it this past summer, and she loved it, blueberry American wheat, and she loved it, and so she asked basically if I could brew it again. It is early November, not blueberry hefe, blueberry American wheat season. I've had that, I've changed the beer style name for a year now, and I still can't get it. All right, and so it's not the season for blueberry American wheat, but why not? She's dying to drink it again. She wants to give some to her sister, and I want to brew again. 10-gallon batches to be exact. So this is my first time brewing a 10-gallon batch of selling out blueberry American wheat. I'm actually not going to be adding just blueberry extract. In fact, I don't even want to add blueberry extract for this batch. I want to start using real ingredients, and that started with my American brown ale, the apple and cinnamon. I added real Macintosh apples, real cinnamon sticks. So for this batch, I'm thinking I'm going to be adding up to 3 pounds of frozen blueberries that I will puree and add into the primary fermentation chamber, add into the primary fermenter after fermentation is completed. I will let it sit for 2 or 3 days, and then I will keg. My biggest concern with adding real blueberry is turning it purple/brown, and I don't want to do that. A nice blue hue I'm okay with. So that's why I mentioned not using blueberry extract, because if I only add 2 or 3 pounds of blueberries, and I don't get a lot of blueberry flavor, I will be adding some blueberry extract. And I threw out the blueberry extract from 000 flavorings that I usually use. I want to maybe try to find a more natural blueberry extract if there is one. Just to not, I really don't want to mess with the color of the beer too much. Also, I'm bumping up my mash temperature. I'm going from 152 to 154 with the idea that at 152 I'm on the low end, and 154 I'm on the high end of keeping the beer looking like an American wheat beer. So keeping it with that nice haze. I like a heavy haze on this beer, but I'm fine with a medium haze on this. I don't want it to clear out. What happened was with the last batch this past summer, it cleared out, and aesthetically it just didn't look great. It was crystal clear. And so I'm thinking a lot of that has to do with the mash temp. I think I was in I must have been 149, 150 on that batch, which isn't ideal if you want to keep the haze. The idea is the higher the temperature in that 152, 154 range, you really want to, that's going to help increase the haze stability. Protein, so to speak. And so I'm going to be doing that. I didn't have enough carafoam on hand, didn't realize it until it was too late. Instead of 1.5 pounds, which seems pretty heavy-handed, but it's a 10-gallon batch. Instead of 1.5 pounds, I went with 8 ounces, and I bumped up my base grain an extra pound on the 2-row. 2-row and Pilsner split base grain, almost split. I think it's 8 pounds of Pilsner, and now it's 4 pounds of 2-row, so not really that close to split, but it's 2 base grains. Anyway, I'm excited to brew today. I already crushed the grain, so all I need to do is mash in. Made those couple of changes, and I think I'm going to mess with our temperature controller on the Brewzilla a little bit to see if I can stay within that 154 range. Let's get to brewing and see how we do. Okay, we are sitting at 160, excuse me, 160 degrees, 75%. I'm actually going to bring that down to 50% power. I'm going to move the target temp from 160 to 154. I want to be at the top of that outer range in order to increase haze stability. And some Bourblaise. I increased my quart to pound ratio to about 1.87 to create a thinner mash. But the real reason why I did it is because The mash to sparge water ratio was a little bit over 50-50, and I did not want to have more. I did not want to have more sparge water than mash water. So that's just a calculation that you need to make in Brewfather. I'm going to scrape the bottom, if you can hear that, just to get the salts. I'm going to move out. There we go. Let's move that out. A little bit easier to see. Okay. Get this grain going. My first 10-gallon batch of the selling out blueberry American wheat. I changed the style from Hefeweizen to American wheat on the light suggestion from BrewTubers, online Brewers Club member, and social media beer influencer Kristen at But Can I Get a Flight? She knows her stuff about beer, so I had no problem taking that feedback. So it has since, for the past year or so, been listed on the beer labels as an American wheat. I'm going to try to keep that temperature as close to 154 as I can. That was a lot. That was a lot. I'm currently sitting at 155.4. I did bump up my strike temp. Brewfather said 158. It's a little bit chilly here this morning. As you know, if you follow along with my videos, my basement does not have temperature control, so it can get as low as 45 degrees down here. The insulation only does so much. I'd rather be lower at the end of mash than higher, because I can work up to a temp. It's going to be hard to lose temperature even shutting it off. Currently sitting at 149.9. Differential override turned on. Work this bad boy up to 154. I probably should have had the strike temp a little bit hotter. Everything fit just fine. I'm going to be nice thin here. Got a lot of water in here. A lot of water, if stirred appropriately, more water means a less chance of dough balls. Yeah, this is very, very thin, but I'm fine with that. We still got plenty of space. Plenty of space. Okay. Currently sitting at 148. The unit says 157.8, which is not great. But we're gonna I'm gonna pop the top on this and do a 10-minute rest before we throw on the pump. Okay, I'm going to swing around real quick, see if I can show you what the temps are at. If you can see that, we're looking at 154.7 on the unit, 152.3 on the unit, 154.7 on the wrapped. I did turn up the heating hysteresis, which is the difference before the unit will turn on, the difference in the wrap temperature thermometer and the unit heater, the probe in the unit. I turned that up to 0.7 degrees. It was at 0.3, and what I was finding was, unfortunately, at 0.3 degrees, it just doesn't allow the wrapped to really heat up. And I don't mind if the unit's reading a little bit hotter as long as the wrapped is reading the right temperature. Here we go, pulling a sample for pH. Okay, we're pretty low, 4.85. So I'm going to add some lactic acid to build that back up. I want to be between 5.2 and 5.5. So let's see what adding, a teaspoon of lactic acid will do. I don't know if you can see that or not. We were able to bump it up to 5. I'm going to add another teaspoon of baking soda and just call it a day. I don't want to add too much baking soda, but I do want to get the pH within a reasonable range. So we're at another teaspoon of baking soda. I said lactic acid in the last video. It's in the last clip. It's not lactic acid, it's baking soda. We'll add a teaspoon of that and take another reading. All right. Right outside the range of 5.2. I am not going to mess with it. I'm going to leave it right where it is. I calibrated with 7 pH solution and it only read 6.89 when I calibrated, so my thinking is another 11 points puts me at 5.28. But we'll see. Not overly concerned about it. I've brewed this beer 1,000 times, but I need to get 4.0 pH solution so the Kegland pH meter can read it. Unless those of you watching that have pH meters know a little bit more than I do, I'm more than happy to take the education, so let me know. Okay, I am on the tail end of Sparging, and I'm about to take a first runnings gravity. Now, the reason I do this is to ensure I'm getting proper conversion, so I know what to expect heading into the boil. Pre-boil gravity was 0.46, so in an ideal world, this should be significantly higher. Huh, interesting. 0.38. That cannot possibly be correct. Because, I did take it from the bottom, and I didn't take enough, but it is saying 0.38, which would mean pretty terrible conversion. So I'm going to continue sparging. And let's see what pre-boil gravity is. I took this from the very bottom. What I usually do is take it from the top. And so taking it from the bottom, I may have pulled a sample that wasn't fully mixed. We're on the tail end of mashing in. We want to get to 51 liters, which is 13.5 gallons. That is taking into account about 1/4 of a gallon that will be left in my transfer tube. Once I'm done fully transferring into the fermenter. So in an ideal world, I will have 11 gallons in the fermenter so that I don't have to pick up the transfer tube and get the last of the wort into the fermenter. Okay, we're going to take a sample. I just started the 60-minute timer. Now that it's fully mixed, I had to add in 6 drops of firm cap because the foam was coming up real high. Timer's going. I'm going to throw this in the freezer, and we're going to get a true reading on our pre-boil gravity. All right, I've taken a sample, cooled it for 5 minutes in the freezer. I took it from the top of the boil, which is what I normally do. We are looking for 1.046 pre-boil. That's what we're looking for. 1.046. Wait for it to connect. That a boy, all right. Pre-boil is 1.050. We hit our pre-boil gravity and we overshot it by 4 points. So, as I suspected, taking the sample from the bottom of the unit after the fact probably wasn't a great idea. Kabang! Whoop. Taking the sample from the bottom of the Brewzilla probably wasn't a great idea. What I usually do is right before I pull the malt pipe up, what I usually do is I'll take the sample from the recirculation. That's the most accurate. Taking it from the bottom, as you can see, the gravities really range from, in a unit like this, from top to bottom. So I'm really glad that we're all settled. I don't have to add any DME or figure out calculations. 1.050. I was shooting for 1.046 at 81% brewhouse efficiency. Mash efficiency. No, 81% brewhouse efficiency, like 80% mash efficiency or something. I'll put the numbers below, but looking good so far. Wow. So I try, if I can, to brew with the freshest hops. That's not always possible. 2023 crop of Huell Melon. Centennial is 2024. And the smell difference between fresh hops and not so fresh hops is just night and day. If you can, as a home brewer, whether you are just starting or whether you've been doing it for 10 years, try to brew. My advice would be try to brew with the freshest ingredients that you can. It's not always possible. And as Mike 77 Trans Am guy says, in the end, it will be beer. So regardless of how old the ingredients are that you're using, it'll be beer. Whether or not you enjoy it is one thing or another. Who really knows? But fresh ingredients, proper brew process, cleaning regimen equals good beer, hopefully. You could suck at making recipes. There's so many different variables. But what I wanted to say overall, what I wanted to say was, get yourself some proper recipes, make those beers a lot, buy hops in bulk, use fresh ingredients like hops. That's what I do. Oh. Okay. We are at the mark. It's time to add 1 ounce and 3/4 of Centennial hops. I have the Whirlpool arm currently being sanitized by the boil. And the reason why I put it in is to, as I just said, sanitize it. I did spray it with sanitizer before I threw it in, but the boil should help with that too. Centennial smells amazing. Bearcats are just kicked off now. I'm going to watch some Bearcats in West Virginia while I finish up this beer. And I'm going to grab a beer, I think. All right. I'm now turning off the unit. Add flame out, adding the Huell Melon hops. Turning off the timer. And now I'm going to go turn on the chiller. So I know, I don't really do follow-up beer tastings very often. I should probably do them more. I just know the standalone beer tasting videos don't get a lot of views. But I have had people in the comments reach out and ask for tasting videos. So why not throw one into the tail end of this brew day video? I'm at 76 degrees right now, currently cooling down, looking to get to about 70. I'm going to let the beer rest for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to transfer into the fermenter. Here is the apple cinnamon brown ale, otherwise known as lateral cohesion. So looking on the camera, you can't tell. It's super dark, definitely on the darker end of a brown ale. which is how this beer has always been. I've been brewing it for years. But it does have like a really nice reddish hue to it. Maybe I can do something. Oh yeah, you see that reddish hue that goes through the light? And it's definitely clear. It comes out of the tap super clear. It's definitely clear. Really excited about this beer. Ooh, hair. Really excited about this beer. Home brewing. Let's get a nose. So what's interesting about this beer is when I canned it, right before I canned it, I pulled a glass off and started drinking it as I was canning. Got no apple on it whatsoever. I was really nervous. Every time I've poured it after that, I've gotten a really nice amount of apple. I've given it to my neighbor. He gets a lot of apple. I've sent it out to guys in the club. They get the apple. So I don't know. I definitely think the apple sitting on top of the fermenter, sitting on top of the beer, it never really, even when I cold crashed, it never fell into solution. It may have done something from a flavor perspective and aroma, really. You got that roasty, toasty character on the front end of the nose, and then the apple hits you, and then the cinnamon. It's really a nice layered, it smells like fall, for sure. Get a little thing of a baker's chocolate, which makes sense. There's pale chocolate in the recipe. Let's go in for a sip. L'chaim. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Really nice bitterness, middle to back end. The apple hits you in the front, roasty, toasty, and the cinnamon stays pretty prominent. Really nice beer. It coats the mouth nicely. This is not a two-style American brown ale. Let's be honest about that. This is a hybrid brown ale porter kind of thing going on. But it's something that I've brewed for years now, and I love it. Absolutely love it. I do a two-style brown ale, British brown ale. That's actually won me the category in a couple of competitions that I really enjoy, that a lot of people really like, that I started brewing about 2 years ago. But I really wanted something fruity. I wanted to go back to my roots using real ingredients like apple. Really nicely carbonated. I'm a fan of the slow carb, 2 weeks at 12 PSI. Really, the slow carb I have found, the slow carb, there's no getting around it. You can carbonate your beer in 24, 48, 72 hours, but the slow carb for me leaves a nice lasting little head retention, a little film on the top, and on a clean glass, that lacing is, second to none. Things I would change, cinnamon. I'm not adding 4 cinnamon sticks on the next batch. I'm probably gonna cut it in half. It is cinnamon heavy when it was first being pulled off the kegerator, off the keg, and when I was canning it, it does come across cinnamon heavy. As it's sat, and I'm gonna put it in the notes in Brewfather, as it's sat, I do get a level of cinnamon that is nice. It's more mellow. But this beer's been in the keg for probably about 2 weeks, carbonating, another 2 weeks drinking. So I don't wanna wait that long to get a decent cinnamon. My hope is pulling about half the cinnamon, using 2 cinnamon sticks instead, I kind of keep that base cinnamon flavor going throughout. Yeah, the red hue is super, super nice. Great beer. I'm gonna go right through this. I got 2 kegs. I have to kick one because I brewed a West Coast IPA at my buddy's house in Plymouth, who got me into homebrewing. He stopped for like 3 years. So we got to keg that. He doesn't have a place to store it, so I'm going to store it here. So I need to kick the first keg of the brown ale so that I can make space for the West Coast IPA we brewed a couple weeks ago. That's a fun beer. I'll give more details about that later. 71 degrees. I'm about to pull up the chiller, let it sit for 10 minutes, and then we're going to transfer. L'chaim. I said l'chaim like I'm going away. There's more to this video. I got to pitch the yeast still. Don't leave. Okay, let's transfer. It's been 10 minutes. I have to remember to take a gravity reading. Here we go. Following it up and all the way in, and I have the clamp on, so I'm good. And there it goes. Transferring into the fermenter. Let's see what we end up with for a yield. Okay, we're currently transferring. We're coming up to 7.5 gallons. It's coming quick. So while we're doing that, I'd like to take a gravity. We're shooting for 1.050. Oh, sorry, 1.052. We were shooting for 1.050 on the pre-boil. And we hit 1.052, I believe. So we should be a little bit higher. Perfect. Wow, perfect. 1.054. Okay. I like that. We are much closer to our gravities when I change the efficiency. Who would have known? So I'm going to put that into the calculator. We'll see what we get. Okay, we fully transferred. And if you notice, we're reflecting a little bit over 11 gallons. Now that makes some sense because I increased our volumes by 1/4 gallon. It's not quite reflecting 1/4 gallon, but it is higher than what it was on the last 10-gallon batch, which was my blonde ale. So I don't think I'm gonna like. There's obviously a lot of beer left in the transfer tube, but I think I'm gonna leave it. I think I'm going to keep it where it's at. I should get a full 10-gallon batch off of that. And then I'll adjust my volumes by another 1/4 gallon for the next 10-gallon batch. So instead of a 13.5 gallon pre-boil, it'll be 13 3/4. Maybe I'll even go 14 just to be safe. The transfer tube is long enough, so I should be good to go. I got to tell you, I've had these microphones on pretty much all day. No issues. Very happy about that. Shouts to Rody. Not a sponsor of BrewTubers or of Exit 12, but really should be. Okay. I have 2 packages of WLP 320 American Hefe ale yeast, not American Wheat Bear ale yeast. Popping the top on this Sumbee. A little bit of Sanny, just a little bit left. I need to refill. Gonna hit the very top. I grab my scissors with forgetting that they're twisties. Twist this bad boy off. Let's pitch some yeast, huh? Here we go. The wrapped temperature thermometer inside the pill is reading 68.5 degrees. Perfect. Second pack, make sure, whenever you get liquid yeast, make sure you rouse it. Rouse it. Get the sludgy. Get the sludgy. When it's been sitting for a while, it separates. You can feel it. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, bang, Bird Gang, even though I'm not a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles. Boom. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Liquid yeast, FTW. FTW. Kabam. Let's get this thing on. Get it on. Gonna loosen this up so that I can fit on the collar. Cincinnati's currently losing 17-7. Not great. Come on. This is the one annoyance I have with this. The unit is the The one annoyance I have with the unit is this collar. The pin. The pin! There we go, the pin. The little pin to the pressure release valve was stopping it from going. Okay. I don't want to... Oh. All right. I don't want to tighten it too much. I got the pill. I just pitched the yeast. I'm going to twist this bad boy as hard as I can. Now we're going to take the fridge temperature probe and we're going to stick it right in the middle. Make sure that we're getting this beer fermented at the right temperature. I'm going to keep an eye on the pill, see what the temperature is. I know that that's dialed in really well, and if we're a little low or high, I'll just adjust. I'm going to throw this on 10 PSI, and then we're going to call this a day. I already ordered lunch, waiting for it to be delivered, and I've already had my first beer. I'm going to grab another beer, let the doggies out, and enjoy the rest of this game, hopefully. 17-7, they're driving. Oh, wait. West Virginia's celebrating, so I think that there was a... it might have been the kickoff. Whatever. It's time for me to go. That's all I know. I caught the tail end of the play. All right, yes, it was the kickoff. All right, we pitched, we're good to go. A little over 11 gallons, and we'll stay updated on this beer. Thanks so much for watching. L'chaim. Okay, it is Christmas Eve, so the day before Christmas. And here is the very first pour, technically the third pour because I poured out two. As you can see over my shoulder, right there. Ugh. I poured out two, testing it for carb. I think it might be a little bit low-ish on carb. And I poured a heavy pour, trying to get a decent head going. I kegged this December 9th. You can see in the light, I'm trying to put it in the light. Because I'll tell you, the amount of blueberries that I ended up adding turned the beer the murky kind of brownish that I didn't want it to. It's a lot different looking. As you can see, it kind of looks like mud, so I'm not pumped about that. So I may need to go back to the drawing board depending on how the aroma and the flavor is, on how I want to add the blueberry and how much. This is the first pour, as I mentioned. I kegged this on December 9th. It's the 23rd, so this is 14 days. I could probably give it another 3 or 4 days. We'll take a sip here soon, but I wanted to show how it looks. Got the brand new glass tonight, my second glass from my boy Curtsy at Fermentation Adventures. This is my favorite glass. I broke it some time back and he just sent me a new one. Very much appreciated, my guy. His last one, so I have to make sure not to drop it and break it. Like a dum-dum. All right, let's get a nose on this. So yeah, there's definitely that blueberry there. It's like a overripe blueberry almost, which makes me a little bit nervous. It definitely, I do get some banana on this batch, which is interesting. That has to be the fermentation profile. I get a banana peely thing going on the back end. Actually, yeah, more the front end. It's almost the banana and the blueberry are kind of fighting with each other. I love banana in my hefes, but I know that some people don't. American wheat. But I am getting that banana. I am getting that bubblegum character. And I'm getting a lot of blueberry. Other than that, not a ton of like the grist or the hops. But that's not the point of this beer. I do like the iterations I've made of this where I do get that though. That banana, that bubblegum character is coming out more and more. It's like that old bubblegum you used to get in like a Cracker Jacks box. I'm not that old. It's just a good reference. Shouts if you are old, though. I mean, if you do remember that. I'm not making fun of you, I just don't. And also I might be making fun of you. Yeah, but definitely banana, definitely get that blueberry. It's almost like a banana blueberry smoothie. And thankfully it's so cold down here that it's probably keeping the beer cool as I talk about it. Enough is enough. I want to take a sip. I also want to show, maybe there'll be some lacing on this. That would be nice. But I'm going to take a sip and see how this thing tastes. L'chaim. So there is a little bit of a clash there. There's something going on. The bitterness is really hanging on, like it's really lingering. I wanted the beer also to be on the hazy side because it is an American wheat. So I mashed in at 154. That may have done this beer a little bit of a disservice. Just in that adding so much blueberry in addition to the 154 degree mash temp has this thing looking like mud. Check it out. So you can see it is carved. I mean, you got that little residual buble thing coming up. I'm going to trying to rustle some bubbles here if I can. It finished out at 5.3%, which is just pretty much right where I want it. It's fascinating. I've been drinking beer and craft beer for years and years, and I cannot adequately swirl without getting it all over the ground. It is pretty fascinating. I have 10 gallons of this, and in honesty, at this stage, I'm gonna let it condition for a bit. I don't know that I like it that much, and I don't know if I'm gonna give it out to people. There is something going on in the middle to back end. My palate's adjusted to it a little bit. But I think it's that fresh blueberry. Maybe I use a different blueberry product. But this is the downside with using fruit. I used frozen blueberries. I blended them and I added them. Now I will say I ended up adding them for an extended period of time because I went on vacation. I went to Aruba and I didn't have time. As soon as I got back, I bumped the temp up to 70 for the rest, and then I cold crashed. And I think I ended up cold crashing for, I think it was four days, it might have been 5. So an extended time on the blueberries, an extended cold crash. Probably for experimenting, I shouldn't have done a 10-gallon batch. I may send this out just to get some thoughts. Because this is not a finished beer by any stretch. But some nice, halfway decent lacing. But this means opportunity and room for improvement. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, Merry Christmas. Actually, this video is actually coming out in January. So Happy New Year. How's that? Happy New Year. L'chaim.